Hey, BassGeek here, and today I'm going to tell you everything you need to know to master crankbait fishing. So what do you really need to know about fishing crankbaits? When I first started fishing crankbaits, I was totally confused. Color, action, sound, even the material. There's so many options out there, I was just totally overwhelmed. I needed to know the answer to questions I didn't even know to ask yet. And let's face it, these things are expensive. I couldn't go out and spend a bunch of money on a bunch of different crankbaits and hope they were the ones I needed for whatever situation that I was in on that particular lake. So this is the system that I came up with, and it works well for me. Now you're going to notice that I use a lot of different crankbaits, but this is a year-round, any season, any watercolor, any situation crankbait system. It works well for me. Now the reason why is because I use crankbaits as a search bait a lot of times when I'm fishing new lakes or new water. Crankbaits are a great reaction strike bait, and they allow me to go cover a lot of water really fast and find active fish or find areas where fish are living. Then I can go back and slow down. So I need a bait that I can cover a lot of water very quickly at any time of year, any water type, any structure or cover. And a crankbait can accomplish that for you. So do you need the multitude of crankbaits that I'm going to go over? Absolutely not. If you fish a certain area, a certain group of lakes, or a certain lake in particular, you're going to know for the most part what bite is best at what time of year. Again, I go back to saying, and I state again, this is a search tool for me for when I'm going out to new lakes to cover new water. It helps me find those active bass quickly, any time of year, any type of cover, any type of structure, any type of water clarity. I hope this helps you guys find and catch more bass. Hey, sorry about the location and the wardrobe change here, but a pop-up thunderstorm come by, and as you can see, I was running for my life, but still soaked everything, including yours truly. But let's get back to what we were talking about, and that's crankbaits. So there's really 4 criteria that I look for when I'm looking into crankbaits. One, of course, is the depth. You've got to be ticking the grass, you got to be bumping the stumps, you got to be banging into the boulders as you work that crankbait. If you're not touching bottom, you're not doing any good. 2 is going to be, does it wiggle or does it wobble? The action. 3 is going to be the color. What type of water are we fishing in? All right, is it clear? Is it stained or muddy? So are we going to go with the natural pattern, or are we going to go with something a little bright and really attractive? 4 is, does it rattle or is it silent? You know, a lot of times fishing in a lot of areas, bass have seen these rattling crankbaits come running through in the clear water. Sometimes you can throw a silent and it sneaks up on them. So let's talk about criteria number 1, and that's depth. The depth of a crankbait is almost always dictated by the size and shape of the bill, along with the angle that it comes out from the crankbait's body. So as you can see here, we've got 2 different crankbaits. They're not very much different in size, but the bills are shaped a lot differently. This crankbait, for example, both of these are Strike Kings, by the way. This crankbait, for example, has a very wide, almost spoon-shaped bill. It comes out very much in line with the body. And you can see it even cups up to really dig into the water. That's going to create a much deeper, much steeper diving depth, as opposed to the square bill, which comes out at a slight angle from the body, which will create a much shallower, much less of a tilt as it comes through the water. So no matter what depth level you're targeting bass at with a crankbait, you want to be sure that you're bumping stumps, bouncing off boulders, or digging in the dirt. That's the key. You want to bounce the crankbaits off of whatever covering structure and get that erratic movement. So the second criteria we're going to talk about is wiggle versus wobble, or the action of the bait. The action of the bait is almost always dictated by the shape of the body. Flatter sides generally gives you a nice tight natural action wiggle. And a bait that's really great at this is the Shad Rap by Rapala, or Rapala, whichever way you prefer. So you can see this bait is a very thin, very flat-sided bodied bait. And it will come through the water, as you can see in the video, with a very tight wiggle. Now, actually, very inappropriately named is the wiggle wart. But it's a very wide, round body, and it has a great wobble to it. And as you can see, the difference in wiggle and wobble is a rolling action. And the wiggle wart has one of the best rolling wobbles really out on the market. So where do you use the two different styles of crankbaits? Well, wobble, you're looking at dirty water or deep water. The deeper or dirtier, the less light, the more the wobble you want. So a wobble puts out much more vibration than does a wiggle. A wiggle, you're going to use it in more of a clear water situation or wide expanses, so the fish can see it coming from a long way. So you want a nice, tight, natural action when you're fishing a crankbait. So the third criteria we're going to be talking about is going to be color. Don't let this overwhelm you. Keep it simple. Generally what I do is I really boil it down to about 5 simple colors. And I'll use those in all kinds of different depth ranges. And they'll cover almost any type of water or forage that you can find in the United States. Now, generally I'll start with a couple of different shad patterns. Most of our lakes have shad in them, but not all. So what I do is I'll start with a very natural shad color. From there, I like to get a shad color with a little bit of that's a little bit brighter. So I'll pick out, a lot of times, good old sexy shad here. Now from there, some of the lakes we fish don't necessarily have shad in them. So some of the other two abundant natural forage for bass are bluegill. So I'll pick up a bluegill crankbait. The other would be crayfish, crawdads, mud bugs, whatever you want to call them. But I'll pick up a crawdad color. Now, the fifth and final option that I like to have on is a really bright color for when the water is really dirty and really hard to see. The visibility is very low. I'll pick up some sort of bright fire tiger. Blackback chartreuse side is one of my favorites. But generally, that's the 5 colors I'll go with. And that's at all depth levels. So if I'm fishing 0 to 3 feet or 35 to 40 feet, I'm going to start out with those 5 colors, generally speaking. So the fourth and final criteria, guys, I don't put a lot into this. Most of the time, the only time I'll use this or make this sort of change is if I'm fishing very pressured, clear water or large expanses so that they can see that crankbait coming from a long way, sort of situations. And that is sound. So sound boils down basically to whether the crankbait has rattles or whether it does not. And so I do try to pick up some crankbaits in the different variations that I have that don't have rattles, or they're silent. For example, here's two Strike Kings. These are both 5XD. One is silent. One has rattles. So a lot of times what I'll do is, if I'm fishing highly pressured fish, or if I'm on a group of fish that I've thrown a crankbait with rattles in to and caught several fish out of, and they've stopped biting that particular crankbait, I'll then switch to a silent crankbait. It seems to sneak up on them a little more, and it tends to get a few more bites as the day goes on, if I'm working in a particular group of fish or in a particular area. Again, I do fish tournaments, so I find that a crankbait is a very good reaction bite search bait. So I need to be able to throw a crankbait year round, and in a multitude of depths, and in a multitude of lakes, with a multitude of forage. So I needed to be able to use a search bait that I could find fish pretty much anywhere, any time of year. So to sum it up, what I did is I picked 3 styles of crankbaits from 2 manufacturers after doing a lot of research. The first manufacturer is Rapala. So I selected both the Shad Ramp and the DT series. The Shad Ramp has a nice tight wiggle, very natural action in the water. It's good in clear water, and it's good in cold water conditions. So I picked from about 0 to 15 feet with the Shad Ramp, and in each level I selected the 5 colors that we talked about earlier. The same went on with the DT series. Now they go from about 0 feet down to about 20 feet, and in each level I selected the 5 colors. The DT series is kind of a middle of the road bait. So finally I selected the Strike King XD series. These baits cover from 0 all the way down to 25 plus feet. And again, every step, every depth level, I bought the 5 different color baits. Again, you don't have to go out and go this in depth, but I'm fishing tournaments, so I need to be able to cover any situation. And with these 3 boxes of crankbaits, I feel like I'm ready to find fish on any body of water in any situation that presents itself to me. Okay, so I hope this helps you out. I hope it gets you started, or at least gets you a little more informed and not just going out there and picking up a bait off the shelf and trying it. I'm not telling you that's not going to work, but at least understand why it does. So as always, guys, questions and comments in the comment section. You know I love to talk to you. You know I love to answer questions. I hope I'm going to get to do a live stream either this Thursday or maybe next Tuesday or Thursday. And we'll do some questions and comments then. I'll keep you posted on that. An update, I did make the regionals. I got in provisionary, so I'll be fishing those next week, the BFL regionals. I'll be competing for a brand new boat. I can't wait. Like it if you like it. Don't forget to subscribe, and you guys rock.